Hello everybody and welcome to Book Bar and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be going over my February wrap up. February ended yesterday. When you're seeing this it will have been a couple days, but for me it was yesterday. Sorry if I'm looking down or around. I'm just looking at my notes for what I got going on. But yeah, in the month of February I read a total of 28 books. Again, I'll do like my stats and favorites at another video. So I'm just going to go into the books that I read. I'm going to do them in order of how I read them, or how I finished them, not necessarily in order of how I read them. The first book that I read this month was A Reckless Match by Kate Bateman. This is a historical romance. It's hate to love. So it's kind of Romeo and Juliet-esque without the tragedy at the end. It's two rival families. They have to meet every spring equinox and do a handshake to keep this like part of land neutral territory. And this year it is the heroine Madeline and Griff, which I read a couple books with a character named Griff this month, so that's interesting. Madeline Montgomery and Griff Davies have to meet. Griff has just inherited the earldom from his father, and Madeline's father is sick. She is a scarred heroine, and she's a blue stocking. I really, really loved this book. It was a fun story. I loved the Romeo and Juliet vibes without the tragedy at the end. Maddie and Griff were a fun couple. I gave this one 5 stars. And then I listened to Getting Schooled by Christina C. Jones. This was a hate to love student and TA black love story about Jason Wright and Reese. I can't remember her last name. She is a teacher's assistant and Jason is in her mother's class. She's the TA for her mother's class, and Jason is a former military and he has only one leg. This book was phenomenal. It was my first ever Christina C. Jones, and it definitely was not my last, and it will not be my last. I absolutely loved it. I was laughing out loud at certain parts. It was a book I needed that I didn't know I needed. I was almost crying at parts. There was a part where Reese said something about students needing to jump into a sea of dicks. It was hilarious. There was no like miscommunication or anything stupid like that. Yeah, if you couldn't guess, it was 5 stars. And then I read, this was an ARC that I got from NetGalley. It's called The Wedding Season by Katie Birchall. I read a book of hers last year called The Secret Bridesmaid. Now, these are marketed as romances. They're not. Just so you know, these are not romances. Yes, they have happily ever after, but they are women's fiction with a romantic subplot. And this one was super fun. I still give 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Freya is dumped the day before her wedding. This is not a spoiler because it literally says it on the back. She's dumped the day before her wedding, and it's about to be wedding season. Like, her wedding was supposed to be the first wedding, and then her best friend's wedding, the last wedding and there's like 8 weddings that she's supposed to go to throughout the whole summer, spring, summer, and early fall. And her 2 best friends set up a bunch of challenges for her to do at these weddings, like kissing a stranger or being the last one on the dance floor, like just fun things like that, and just how like trying to survive the wedding season. And it was great. It was emotional. It was funny. I really enjoyed it. This comes out in May, so definitely pick it up. It's fun. I loved it. So yeah, I didn't give away anything that really wasn't on the back. So I loved it. Sorry. And then I read The Heir by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in the Kingmaker series. This follows Leah, Anna, and Dean. Leo is Sebastian and Yelena's son from the Brutal Birthright series, and Anna is Miko and Nessa's daughter, and Dean is Yelena's brother, and what's his name? I think it's Anton. Could be wrong. It's her brother's son, And obviously her brother hates her from the things that happened in the first book. So Dean and Leo hate each other, don't even know each other, but they go into Kingmakers hating each other. Kingmakers is a mafia Hogwarts school. They go to this little island off the coast of Dubrovnik. It was the first slow burn from Sophie Lark that I've ever, it was slow burn. I mean, they didn't do anything until chapter 28. So it was pretty far. It is a little bit of a love triangle, but it's still fun. I was not expecting the feelings and emotions that I had in it, but I definitely had a lot of them. So Sophie Lark is one of my favorite authors. But yeah, I really loved this. 5 stars if you didn't know already. And then I listened to Will by Will Smith. It is his memoir. It is amazing. It's all about his life and everything that happened growing up in Philadelphia and getting put on Fresh Prince and just his hustle and his drive. And it was great. Great memoir, 5-star memoir. Loved it. And then for my Lisa Clips book club, we read Married by Morning, beautiful step back version. This was my most anticipated from the series. This is Leo, the brother, from the Hathaway brother, and Kat, who is the governess for the Hathaways. And I just absolutely, she's not really a governess, but she kind of is. She's more of like a companion to them. But I loved this so much. Their book was just, it was beautiful. It was fabulous. I don't even know what to say. Leo's story arc from the first book to his own book, and even into the last book of the Hathaways, is just phenomenal. His growth, like seeing him in the first book be this drunken a-hole who doesn't care about anything or anyone, to just falling in love and loving it, like learning to love himself and his sisters, and obviously Kat. And Kat's story, I can't even, I could talk about this forever. Loved it. 5 stars, of course. Then I read, for the Rake Appreciation Society's book club, I read Annie's Song by Katherine Anderson. Again, gorgeous step back. This book's tough. So this book was written in the 90s. I think it's a 96, yeah. And they use a lot of outdated terms like the R word, because this follows a girl named Annie Tremblay, and first chapter she is assaulted, or she's raped. But people think she's not, she doesn't have everything up here, because when she was young, she got a fever and ended up losing her. She ended up being deaf, but her family had a lot of mental health issues, and so they thought that she had gone a little crazy. And so she's basically a 20-year-old trapped in a 20-year-old body with a 6-year-old's mind. And there's a lot of stuff. At first I gave this one 4.5 stars. I think if I were to ever reread it, it would probably be lower. Just like a lot of the thoughts. But I mean, this book is insane. So yeah, I didn't even keep going. She's raped in the beginning and ends up pregnant. And the man that rapes her, his brother, ends up saying that he will marry her. And then, so it's Alex, the brother of Douglas. It's Alex and Annie's love story and them falling in love, and learning just how to be around each other. Alex realizes that she's deaf, that she's not special, that she does not have a mental disability. She's just deaf. And so it was a tough read. I gave it 4.5. I probably wouldn't if I read it again, and I would 100% check triggers for this and know that there are a lot of terms that should not be used in this story, that if it were written today they would not be used, but this was written in 96, and so just to know that going in. And then I read From Lubov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This book follows Jasmine and Ivan Lubov. Jasmine is a figure skater who got dumped by her partner. She's a Paris figure skater, and she's always kind of lived in Ivan Lubov's shadow. She is best friends with his sister and has never gotten along with him. She has always hated him. It's hate to love, forced proximity, there's caretaking, best friend's brother, just all of it. All of the wonderful tropes. It's sports romance. I absolutely adored this. It was just phenomenal. Jasmine grows so much throughout this story. And I love Mariana Zapata's books because it's fun once you know that person loves them. I mean, you know that it's going to be a slow burn. And so, like, just finding those, like, small, like, little moments where you're like, oh, no, he's always cared for her. Or, oh, they've always really, truly been in love. Because there's a fine line between hate and love. But yeah, this book, phenomenal, 5 stars. And then I read The Rebel by Sophie Lark, which might be my favorite Sophie Lark so far. Actually, that's not true. Yeah, it's actually might be my favorite. This was my most anticipated from the Kingmakers. I know a lot of people don't talk about this one as much because I know the next two are Sophie Lark's writing has gotten better with every book she's written, and the next two are just heads and tails. And I know that The Bully is the one that Sophie really wanted to write, but the Rebel is Miles Griffin, who is Ada and Callum's son, and Ada and Callum were my favorite Brutal Birthright. So they were Brutal Prince. They were my favorite couple. So it's Miles and Zoe, and Zoe is in an arranged marriage. And Miles wants to get her out of it because she's arranged to be married to a sadistic jerk face named Rocco Prince. And this book was amazing. I loved the callbacks to Brutal Prince. I do wish that we didn't get Kat's perspective. I know why we had to. I just kind of wish we didn't, because we know, even though the third book is following Zoe's sister, Kat, at the end something happens, and so they're not going to be going back to Kingmakers, and so we're not going to see them as much, and that makes me sad because they were just a phenomenal couple. There was no like third act breakup or anything. It was just perfection. I loved it. 5 stars, of course, if you didn't guess. My first few books from this month were phenomenal. And then I read The Christie Affair, which was a mystery. This is a fictionalized retelling of when Agatha, for 10 days or 11 days in 1926, Agatha Christie went missing. Nobody knows what happened. There was never, so this is like a fictionalized story about her husband, Archie's mistress, and their story, and how she played a role in the disappearance. This is not, again, this is all fictionalized, but it was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I enjoyed it. It was great for a mystery. Something completely different for me. I gave it 3.5 stars. Not necessarily up my wheelhouse, but I think the author had a really great writing style. It's just not my kind of book. So 3.5 stars. I wasn't fully invested, probably because it wasn't a romance. And then I did my reread of House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. 5 stars. Bryce Hunt, amazing. There's a mystery. I loved it. It was fantastic. 5 stars again. If you don't know what this is about, then I don't know where you've been living for the past 2 years. So I'm not going to say much about it. And then I listened to Pulling Doubles by Christina C. Jones. This is the second book in the Wright Brothers series. I did not enjoy this one quite as much. This is Joseph Wright, who's a doctor, and Devin Eccles, who's a nurse, working with the doctors. It was really cute. It was fun. They don't like each other. Of course, it's a workplace romance, hate to love. It was cute. It was an easy read. I still definitely will continue with Christina C. Jones. But again, Black Love, and it was 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but the first one of the series was my favorite. And then I read Temper Me by Alexandra House. This is an age gap, Black Love, scarred hero, second chance-ish single parent romance between Van London and Brooklyn. I'm not even going to attempt to say her last name. She is a single parent who's recently divorced. He is a cancer survivor and he is missing an eye. So there is that. It was a lot more hard hitting than I thought it was going to be. But it was still fun. I enjoyed it. 12 years ago, they had met and had a couple, like, they would every time he'd go visit his sister at college, they would hook up, have some fun, and then, like, they stopped talking after she graduated, and now 12 years later, she's recently divorced, and they meet up again, and sparks fly and realize that they've always been in love with each other. So it was cute. It was fun. I gave it 4 stars. I listened to it on audio because I think that's the only way you can read it right now. And it was narrated by Jacoby DM, and I understand why everyone loves him. I will definitely be listening to more Jacoby DM audiobooks in the future, for sure. And then I listened to Your French Kisses by Lauren Blakely. This was a novella, but it ended up being 2 novellas in one, so I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. It was cute, but because it was 2 novellas in one, it was only like it was only a 3-hour audiobook. So each story was only like an hour and a half, which is only like, I think when I looked it up, it was like 110 pages total. So each story was probably only like 50 something pages. So they were really more like novelettes, and I wasn't expecting that going in. So I just felt like there was so much missing. But it was cute. It was a fun time. It was easy. And then I listened to Sweet Talk by Cara Bastone. This is it's like a series that she did that's meant to be like audio. They're Audible exclusives. It was really fun. It is Elliot Hoffman, who's actually the brother from Call Me Maybe. It's Vera's brother. And Jessie, or as he calls her for most of the book, JD. We actually don't learn her name until super far into it. She's his landlord. It's a hidden identity, friends to lovers, kind of epistolary, but it's more like through text messages or phone calls than anything. They don't meet until the end. It's cute. It's fun. 4.5 stars. Low angst, low steam, all that fun stuff. Then my most anticipated of the month, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second Crescent City book. I have a full vlog on it. I will link it up above. I loved this. 5 stars. I'm not gonna say anything because of spoilers, but Bryce and Hunt are back at it again. Beautiful, fantastic. Loved it. Then I read for my Lisa Kleypas group, Love in the Afternoon. This is Beatrix and Christopher Phelan. Again, I have to step back. This is an epistolary, scarred hero, kind of a secret identity story. Beatrix is the youngest Hathaway. She was 15 in the first book, and to see her grow is just fantastic. She had the best growth. Leo's story arc was my favorite, but she grows the most. You see her as a young girl growing up into a woman. She loves her animals. She loves her family. She is just, I loved her. I love Bea so much. And I mean, I loved Christopher too, but yeah. I give this one 5 stars. Also, just beautiful. Lisa Kleypas basically does no wrong. Then I read The Varsity Dad Dilemma by Lex Martin. This is a sports romance, second chance, kind of. Hate to love, slow burn, and some other tropes that I don't want to say that are spoilers. But basically, Gabby Duran lives across the street from the football house, and her brother moves into the football house, and one night she goes over there and a baby is left on the doorstep, and they don't know who the father of the baby is. It could be anyone. It could also be her brother, so she's very invested in it because they were like, oh, let's put the baby in, let's call DPS, put the baby in child services, and Gabby's like, no, we cannot do that. You can't do that to this poor kid. One of you is the father. You need to take care of her. And one of the football players is Ryder Kingston. He's the quarterback. He's top dog. When they were freshmen, they had a little bit of a fling, and he broke it off really quick because he had a really terrible home life. I absolutely adored this book. It was one of my favorite books of the month. It will probably be one of my favorite books of 2022. I laughed, I cried, I felt all of the emotions during this, and I need to own a physical copy, like ASAP. So I absolutely loved it. 5 stars, if you didn't guess. Then I read The Wedding Proposal for a novella. Literally a 2-hour audiobook. I cried. This book had me bawling my eyes out. It was fantastic. It's Eric and Hannah. She's a jilted bride, and she decides to give her wedding away to Eric's sister and his fiance. I couldn't tell you their names. Didn't really care about the side characters. It was all about Hannah and Eric, and I loved them. This was 5 stars. If you are looking for an audiobook that you want that's quick, easy, I 100% suggest this one. Loved it. Absolutely fantastic. And then I read Snow by Sophie Lark. This, again, is Sophie Lark. She's phenomenal. This is a mafia romance from her Underworld series. I read this because it's suggested to read this before reading The Bully. And obviously I want to get through Kingmakers. But Snow is a boxer. And this one's actually a lot different than most mafias because the heroine is actually in part of the mafia. She is the mafia doctor. She basically sells herself to the mafia to be their doctor because of some stuff that happened with her home life. And yeah, it was phenomenal. It took me a long time to get into it. I knew I was gonna love it. I think it was just like the time I was reading it, I was really busy, and so it took me a while to read it, but I still gave it 5 stars. And I loved that it was different. It wasn't a mafia guy and a girl. I mean, Sophie Lark always writes strong heroines, and Sasha might be one of the strongest because of what she does and just how she handles everything. And some of the stuff that she does in the story is just makes her, she's so strong. I loved it. If you didn't know, 5 stars. Then I continued my listening to or reading books about weddings. Would listen to The Wedding Ringer. This again is not a romance. It is marketed as a romance. It is not. It is a women's fiction with a romantic subplot. I think had I known that going in, I probably would have liked it more. Kind of like with, I mean, the wedding season it's not out yet, so it's being marketed as a romance. I'm here to tell. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be, so I went into it without thinking that. This one I had no idea, because it is already out and it is marketed as a romance. It's not a romance. It is all about the main character's journey, Willa Callister's journey. It was a good book. I enjoyed it, but it is not a romance, and that really bugs me when books are marketed as romances and they're not. So know that going in, not a romance. Basically, Willa used to have it all, 50,000 Instagram subscribers, a very successful blog, an amazing job, a fiance, a lifelong best friend, and one night she catches said lifelong best friend and fiance in bed together, and her whole life blows up. And so it's all about finding herself after that, and figuring out what to do with her life and whether she wants to have friends again, because her one friend completely screwed everything up and made her not trust people, which I get it. I wouldn't trust anyone after that either. And then I listened to The AI Who Loved Me, which was a sci-fi romance audiobook. Surprisingly steamy. Like, there was a steamy, super steamy scene. But I was bored. I gave this 3 stars. I did not like it. I mean, not that I didn't like it. I was just bored. I found myself trying, like, upping the speed to, like, 3.5 times speed just so I could get it over with. It was too short to DNF, it was interesting. I guess I don't like sci-fi, and it was more of like a sci-fi romance than anything. So I think that's probably why it was 3 stars. And then I read a book called The Sexiest Billionaire. This is a age gap, dad's best friend. Takes place at a BDSM club. Insta love. It's a novella. It's short. It's the first book in a series. I don't think I'll continue the series. It wasn't anything special. It was 3.5 stars. Yeah. Not really much I can say other than Willa. I read a lot of books about weddings and a lot of books with characters that have the same name this month. Willa is a submissive, and she goes to this club where she sees her dad's best friend, Jackson. And he is a billionaire, TV personality. She hates him. And another dom goes up to her, and Jackson's like, no. You're not going to have anything to do with this girl. And so they start a dom-sub relationship, and yeah, kinky times ensue, and then they end up getting married. It was overall not something that I would never suggest it. It was fine. 3.5 stars. And then I listened to Heidis Guide to 4-Letter Words. This book was so fun. It was another audiobook that I listened to. It is about a girl who just got fired from her job. She was a teacher, and she is lost and doesn't know what to do with her life. She gets a job working at a entertainment company that does audiobooks for erotic romances, and she ends up creating a podcast called Heidis Discount Erotica, where she's trying to branch out and like learn how to be sexy and say 4-letter words. Like, I'm not going to say them because anyone can watch this, but lots of 4-letter words that are having to do with sex. And she also opens up about how much she loves her hot neighbor. And so it's fun. It's steamy. There is a romance. It's 100% a romance, and I loved it. I don't know why I only gave it 4.5. Shocked. I probably should have given it 5, but for some reason I gave it 4.5. But I still loved it. 100% suggest it. Then I read Lessons in Corruption by Jana Darling. This was on my 22 books to read in 2022. I surprisingly really enjoyed this. I did not think I was going to because I am skeeved out by the student teacher aspect. But I think the way that Gianna wrote Cress was helpful to me, as because she is very young and like naive, even though she is the older woman and King is the younger man. He is 18 when this book starts. She does not know that it is her student until about a week into their relationship. She learns that it is her student, but she sees him at a parking lot and goes home and gets a divorce. Tells her husband she wants a divorce. And then she moves and sees him again at a bar, and they have a week, and then he shows up in her class. And she basically tells him no all along, like trying, like, we can't do this, and he wears her down. Everything is consensual, don't get me wrong. There's no, like, where he's like, no, pushing himself on her, but he wears her down. He just convinces her that they are meant to be together, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only reason I think I lowered it is because of the student teacher. I can't get past it in my brain. But I still really enjoyed it. And then I read Scoundrel of My Heart by Lauren Keith. This was part of my 12 Books by 12 Friends. I really loved this. Again, I gave it 4.5 stars. Just some of the, like, miscommunication just really, really ground my gears. But again, this follows someone named Griff. Griffith Stanwyck and Catherine Lambert. And Catherine has to marry someone with a title to inherit this cottage from her grandmother. And Griffith is a second son, so he is never going to get a title. And then something happens, and his whole family loses their inheritance and everything. And this book is so fun. It's cute. I loved it. 4.5 stars. Then I read a book called Fake Dating the Unsuspecting Heiress, and there was no fake dating in this book. It was completely, I don't understand why it's called Fake Dating the Unsuspecting Heiress. Had it been called anything else, I probably would have enjoyed it more. One, the heiress isn't unsuspecting. She knows she's an heiress. Two, the only fake dating is she gets asked on a date by a doctor and clearly doesn't want to go on said date. And so she lies and says she has plans. And the hero says, oh, she has plans with me. But there was never like, oh, she's going on a date with me. It was just, hey, she has plans with me. So I don't know where, I guess that's where it's fake dating. But yeah, no, it was not fake dating. Very disappointed in that. So that made it only a 3-star for me. It really, really knocked my rating down because it just bugged me that it was called Fake Dating the Unsuspecting Heiress, and there was no fake dating. They went on a date, but she never even said it was a date when she lied to the doctor. So I don't know. It just bugged me. So lowered my rating. And then the last book I read for the month was Bending the Rules by Christina C. Jones. This was the 3rd book in the Wright Brothers series. It was my least favorite of the 3. And this is another Black love, childhood friends to lovers story. This follows Justin Wright, the middle Wright brother, and Tony. Justin Wright is a single father. He is a writer. Tony is, she works in publishing. I don't know if she's an editor or, like, it's hard to explain. This one was my least favorite, but I still really enjoyed it. And it was so fun. I loved seeing the other couples and the other characters. And the epilogue to this really did, like, it. This epilogue was amazing. I absolutely adored it. But I give this one 3.5, rounded up to 4. Just because I gave Pulling Doubles a 4, and I liked that one more, so I couldn't give them the same rating. But this one was just barely below. But I still really loved it. I 100% will, like, Christina C. Jones is an author that I know she's an extremely extensive backlist that I cannot wait to continue reading from. I will keep reading her backlist, and yeah. But that is all that I read this month. Again, I read 28 books. It was crazy. It was fun. Keep an eye out for my stats and faves video that will be coming out soon. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment, all the fun stuff. Let me know down in the comments what you read last month. Did you read any of these? Have you read any of these? Let me know. But for now, that's all I have. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye.